Hello there and welcome. It's Psychic Cynthia here, Spiritual Psychic Cynthia Killian, and welcome. And in today's video, I just wanted to share some quick thoughts and respond to a question that I received from one of my psychic students recently. And she's, I guess you would say, more of a graduate. And she's already gone on and is beginning her psychic practice. She has a psychic practice, actually. And she does this work part-time. She has another full-time employment, but she does do readings semi-professionally, or professionally part-time, let's put it that way. And but she's just getting started with that, really. And the question was about credentials for her as a psychic. And she's looking into some different things, like for example, she's looking into some different metaphysical schools that offer ordination. You know what I mean by ordination as a reverend or a minister, and also some that offer the PhDs in metaphysics, which are basically religious degrees. They're not secular, and I have one actually, and I have ordinations too. I have a couple. So this is why she was asking me about this, and what my thoughts were on that. And I thought it was a good question. It's a good question that I get asked by, those of you who are trying to build your own either psychic practice, maybe you're a card reader, or you're a healer. Maybe you're trying to build your own Reiki or healing practice, and you're looking at different credentials. And, what role do these credentials play? Are they important? Are they useful? What do they do? She asked me what benefit did I receive from it. And let me really address the ordination. I think that's going to be of more interest to those of you building a psychic practice, that you might be looking at that. And right off the top, one thing I want to say about ordination is that in some places, and it really depends on where you live. And listen, I'm not an attorney and I'm not familiar with all these different laws, so you have to find this out yourself for your area. But in some places, you are required to have an ordination to do psychic readings, to legally do psychic readings. And, I think it used to be that way where I live, and I remember, I think it was in the 1980s or 90s, like if you wanted to go work at a psychic fair, you had to have some little paper that said you were ordained. And my understanding is that there are places online where you can just basically buy these, or maybe complete some very simple exam and get that. So I guess where I'm going with this is that if you need an ordination to practice, that's actually different than the credential. That's almost like a licensing requirement. And so, yes, I mean, if you need this, any kind of licensing or certification, ordination to practice, I mean, absolutely it could be a benefit, right? You need to get that then. But then when it comes to what I think of as this real, more serious ordination, to me that is a different thing. And, as I mentioned earlier, I hold two ordinations. I hold one through the Sunset Spiritualist Church in Wells, Kansas, because probably many of you know I am a spiritualist. And I'm actually, involved and associated and affiliated with that church and do things for them and with them. Not so much right now with the COVID stuff. There's not as much in-person activities, but it's actually a church that I'm a member of. And then I'm also ordained through the UMS, the University of Metaphysical Sciences. Their church is a Church of Wisdom of the Heart. And that was sort of a byproduct of my doctorate program I did. At a certain level you could get ordained, and so I accepted that. I guess where I'm going with this is that, for me, especially with my first ordination through Sunset Spiritualist Church, that was something that I wanted. Actually, I asked for it because I was already acting in a ministerial capacity. I was teaching and leading classes and doing readings there and counseling people. And Actually, what got me to thinking about that was when the church itself started issuing these little certificates of completions based on the classes that people were taking with me there. And I started feeling like, wow, if they're going to do that, I probably need to have some kind of official paperwork, you know. So it was kind of backwards for me, actually. In a way, I didn't seek that ordination. I definitely didn't seek it as a credential. It was just like, okay, we're issuing this other stuff. I'm already in this role, so let's go ahead and take it a step further. And I think it's good. Ordination is about service. Real ordination is about serving people. So, okay, it's one thing if you need to get that and you just need a paper to practice. And by the way, that's not an impressive credential. That's just enough to get you in the door. But the only reason that ordination or any of my credentials mean anything is because of the service that I do, the various service. Whether it's the service of making these videos or showing up teaching live classes or writing or, I don't know, whatever your service is, doing healing. So I guess what I'm saying is I think that credentials can be useful, but the serving is more important. I feel that the most power of so-called credentials is for the person getting them. And if getting this credential would help you feel more at ease, if it helps you to feel more self-confident as a psychic, as a healer, then of course that confidence will project out and other people will feel that. And that might attract more clients, more flock members, more students. So there's benefit in that. But I want to flip it around a little bit here too. I want you to understand that I think most people, and it depends, you have to look at who you're serving. But when it comes to a psychic, particularly, and I would say even a healer, I think that the main so-called credential people are interested in is your track record and if you can help them or not. Even if you don't have a track record, can you help them or not? So the most important thing is to do your work, whatever it is. If it's readings, do readings. You might want to document those readings at first. You might want to keep track. And, so maybe on your website you can say, Sarah Mystico has, I'm just making that name up, by the way. Okay, so if your name is Sarah Mystico, I'm just making it up, so I'm not trying to use your name. But psychic reader Sarah Mystico has done now over 300 readings. I mean, that's not the same as an ordination, but that tells people that you have done some readings, okay? So I think that could be very useful, but I don't know a lot of people though that say when they're looking for a psychic, their first criteria isn't going to be whether or not you're ordained usually. So you just need to know that, okay? Now, let's say if they're looking for psychics and they have a set of good recommendations and your name comes up and they have 3 or 4 that they're looking at and you're about all equally experienced, you're all about equally good, and you have that ordination or that PhD and the others don't. It might make a difference. It might make a difference. I don't know. It just depends on the person. I guess what I'm saying is don't get too wrapped up in seeking credentials. I think that if you want to seek the credential because it makes you feel better, it makes you feel more confident, and hopefully it actually makes you better at your work. Now, obviously, just going online and paying, $10 or whatever to get some free download that says you're ordained, that doesn't make you better or worse at your work. It has no effect. So if you're going to go through the process of seeking a credential, how I would look at it is I would ask yourself, I would say, hey, is this going to help me change and grow in a positive way? And by the way, that's how I approach, everything, either from a point of service or for me, getting my doctorate in metaphysics, which meant actually earning the bachelor's first and the master's and then the doctorate. And I already had a bachelor's degree, okay, in social work, so I had to go back and do that again. So that was a lot of work, and I was not doing that just to get a credential, because frankly, most people who set out in doctorate programs of any kind do not finish. So I wouldn't recommend that you attempt to get a doctorate just to get a credential. Do it for your own joy. Do it because, oh wow, this program looks great. It looks like something I would like to take. It looks like something that would fill in some knowledge gaps for me as a practitioner, whatever you're practicing, you know, whether you're a psychic or a healer or even a coach. You know, are you going to actually learn something from that certification program? Because by the way, if you're not, then it means nothing. It shouldn't mean anything, right? It should be more than just a piece of paper. It should mean something. All right, so those are some thoughts I have on that, and I hope you find that helpful. Just trying to help those of you out who are, you know, going, you know, on this path and getting started. And I know there's a lot to think of. Don't get too wrapped up in chasing credentials, though. Always, I believe, always make these two things your priority. First of all, your own growth, your own well-being, and your own spiritual, psychic, and healing awakening. That should be your first priority, because that is the well, that is the source from which all of your other activities are going to flow. You have to have an abundant well of energy and health and well-being and psychic seeing. So you tend to that, and then service. As your well overflows, you share that skill that you have developed. Skill is much more important than credential, in my opinion. Skill, proficiency, knowledge, wisdom, ability, these things are very important. So you focus on developing that, on developing your own strength, your own awakening, your own skill, your own knowledge, your own ability. And then you share that with others. And that's really the winning formula, by the way. That's what all successful people do. Now, there might be some other details, of course there are. And has having credentials helped me? Absolutely. Actually, in ways I did not anticipate. I really didn't think that I didn't think that people would care if I was ordained or had my PhD in metaphysical counseling. Or that's because I don't think like people of the world. But yes, there's certain people that really impresses them and might sort of take them over the edge. Like if they're thinking about, you know, having a session with you, or, you know, even signing up for your newsletter or watching your videos, they might be more interested, especially if they are of more of a credentialed mindset themselves. So that's the other thing to look at. Who are you serving? Are you serving people that care about these academic credentials or whatever the credential is? And if that's the case, it would probably be a good idea to get the credential so that you can reach them. It's just another way of serving them. But if your tribe doesn't care about those credentials, well, then the only reason to get it would be for your own growth and development, which is not a bad thing. I think it could certainly be worth it. Alrighty, so those are my final thoughts for today on it. And again, I hope that you found it helpful. I wish you all much joy and much success on your path of building your own practice, building your own sharing with the world. Until next time, bright blessings.